During Grandpa's will reading, my family cheered as my brother got $10 million and all the properties, while I received $5 and a note saying, "You never deserved our name." So I stood up calmly, congratulated everyone, and announced I'd been Grandpa's secret business partner and already owned 80% of everything they just inherited. Welcome, family. If this story touches your heart, show some love by subscribing and letting us know where you're watching from. Now let's go on with the story. The mahogany conference table felt cold beneath my fingertips as I sat in Grandpa Samuel's lawyer's office, surrounded by people who shared my blood but not my heart. My mother dabbed her eyes with a silk handkerchief, the expensive kind she'd bought last month during her shopping spree. My father sat rigid, his jaw clenched, already calculating numbers before the will was even read. My brother Charles sprawled in his chair like he owned the place, smirking at me across the table. My Aunt Linda whispered something to my cousin Trey, and they both glanced my way, snickering. "Can we just get this over with?" Charles said, checking his gold watch. "I got places to be." I said nothing. I'd learned years ago that silence was armor in this family. Attorney Morrison adjusted his glasses and cleared his throat, breaking the seal on Grandpa's will. My stomach twisted. It had been 3 weeks since the funeral, 3 weeks since I'd stood alone at his gravesite after everyone else had left, whispering my goodbyes to the only person who'd ever truly seen me. "Let's begin," Morrison announced, his voice formal and measured. The room fell silent except for Mother's theatrical sniffling. "The last will and testament of Samuel James Brooks." My hands trembled slightly. I clasped them together in my lap, remembering Grandpa's last words to me in the hospital. "Baby girl, trust the process. Just trust it." I hadn't understood then. I was about to. Morrison's voice droned through the preliminary legal language while Charles drummed his fingers impatiently on the table. I studied the faces around me. People I'd known my entire life. People who'd made it clear from childhood that I was somehow less than. Different. Wrong. My darker skin, my kinky hair that wouldn't behave, my bookish nature. All of it had been weaponized against me for 28 years. "To my grandson Charles James Brooks," Morrison read, his tone shifting, "I leave the following: $10 million in liquid assets, the family estate on Riverside, the vacation property in the mountains, the commercial building downtown, and all shares in Brooks Properties LLC." The room erupted. Charles jumped up, pumping his fist. Yes. I knew it. I knew Grandpa recognized real family. Mother burst into fresh tears, pulling Charles into a hug. "Pie baby. You deserve this. You've always been such a good grandson." Dad clapped Charles on the back, grinning wider than I'd seen in years. Aunt Linda started planning a celebration dinner right there, talking about champagne and steaks. I sat motionless, watching the circus unfold. My cousin Trey leaned over to me. "Don't feel too bad, Sonia. Maybe you'll get his old fishing pole," he whispered, then laughed at his own joke. Morrison cleared his throat loudly, trying to regain control. But the celebration continued for another full minute before anyone noticed him waiting. "There are additional provisions," Morrison said firmly, cutting through the noise. The room settled again, everyone still glowing with Charles's windfall. My brother sat back down, loosening his tie, already looking like he'd won the lottery. As he had. Or so they thought. "To my granddaughter Sonia Rose Brooks," Morrison continued, and I felt every eye turn toward me. Here it came. The final confirmation of what I'd always known. I didn't belong. Not really. "I leave the sum of $5. Silence. Then explosive laughter. Charles doubled over, slapping the table. $5. $5 whole. He could barely breathe between his guffaws. "Did he leave you bus fare too?" Mother didn't even pretend to hide her satisfaction. Well, Samuel was always fair. He gave everyone what they earned. Her emphasis on earned cut deeper than any knife. Dad nodded in agreement, not even looking at me. Aunt Linda whispered loudly to my mother, "I told you she was never really his favorite. All that time she spent with him was just her being clingy." Morrison wasn't finished. "There's also a note." His expression had shifted to something I couldn't quite read, discomfort mixed with something else. Pity maybe. He unfolded a small piece of paper with Grandpa's distinctive handwriting. My heart hammered against my ribs. "You never deserved our name," Morrison read aloud. The room went silent again, but this time the silence was hungry, satisfied. They'd finally heard what they'd always believed, confirmed by the patriarch himself. I stared at that note in Morrison's hand and something inside me crystallized. Not broke, crystallized. Became diamond hard and unbreakable. 28 years of subtle digs and outright cruelty played through my mind like a highlight reel. The time Mother forgot to invite me to Charles's college graduation party. The Christmas Dad gave Charles a new car and handed me a $20 gift card. The countless family photos I wasn't included in because I didn't photograph well. "You know what, Sonia?" Charles leaned forward, eyes glittering with malice. "Grandpa finally said what we've all been thinking. You were adopted because they felt sorry for you, but you never actually became one of us. You don't have what it takes." "Charles, that's enough," Dad said, but his tone was mild, performative. He didn't mean it. Mother touched Charles's arm gently. "Honey, let's not be cruel. Sonia has other qualities. She's very persistent." The way she said it made persistence sound like a character flaw. I stood up slowly, smoothing down my black dress. Everyone watched me, expecting tears or rage or some kind of breakdown they could later recount as evidence of my instability. That I smiled. It wasn't a happy smile, but it was genuine. "Congratulations, Charles," I said clearly, my voice steady. "Truly. Congratulations to all of you, actually." Confusion rippled through the room. This wasn't the script they expected. "Sonia, if you need help," Morrison began, but I held up my hand. "I'm not finished." The office seemed to shrink as I stood there, every face turned toward me with varying expressions of confusion and contempt. Morrison had set down the will, watching me with that peculiar intensity again. I took a deep breath, tasting the moment before everything changed. This was what Grandpa had prepared me for. This exact moment. "I want everyone here to know something," I said, my voice growing stronger with each word. "Something Grandpa and I kept private for 7 years. Since I was 21, actually. Right after I graduated summa cum laude from business school. The graduation, by the way, that none of you attended." "Sonia, what are you babbling about?" Mother snapped. "We're in the middle of something important." "I'm Grandpa's business partner," I said simply. "Have been since I was 21. Silent partner, actually. The one who's been running Brooks Enterprises International for the past 7 years. Charles snorted. "Brooks Enterprises?" Grandpa had Brooks Properties, not some made-up international. "Brooks Properties LLC," I interrupted, "is a subsidiary of Brooks Enterprises International. It's one of 15 subsidiaries, actually. There's also Brooks Tech Solutions, Brooks Medical Holdings, Brooks Real Estate Development, Brooks Import-Export, and 10 others. Together, they're worth approximately $240 million. The room had gone completely still. Morrison was trying to suppress a smile now. He knew. Of course he knew. He'd helped structure everything. "That's impossible," Dad said, but his voice had lost its certainty. "Samuel owns some properties and a small business. That's it." "No," I said softly. "That's what he let you believe." I pulled out my phone, opening the folder I'd kept for this exact moment. Grandpa started Brooks Enterprises 30 years ago, long before most of you even knew him. He'd learned early that family members who knew about wealth often became entitled, greedy. He watched it happen to his own father. So when he met me, when he saw I had his mind for business, he made a choice. "This is ridiculous," Aunt Linda sputtered. "Samuel would never trust me." I finished. "The granddaughter you all treated like hired help? The one you sent to fetch drinks at family gatherings when she was 12? You're right about one thing. Grandpa did give everyone what they earned." I let that hang in the air for a moment. "Charles, those properties you just inherited? Beautiful buildings. Historic even. There's just one tiny detail Morrison hasn't mentioned yet." Morrison cleared his throat. "The properties mentioned in the will are owned by Brooks Properties LLC, which is indeed a subsidiary of Brooks Enterprises International. Charles Brooks now owns 100% of Brooks Properties LLC. Charles pumped his fist again. Exactly. I own. However, Morrison continued, raising his voice, Brooks Properties LLC itself is owned by Brooks Enterprises International. Charles owns the subsidiary but not the parent company. Brooks Properties LLC has approximately $7 million in debt, secured against those same properties. It also has ongoing operational costs of approximately $40,000 monthly. The color drained from Charles's face. What? The $10 million in liquid assets mentioned, I added, that's real. But it's currently held in accounts that are also technically owned by Brooks Enterprises International. It was transferred to Brooks Properties LLC specifically for distribution per the will. Mother had gone pale. Samuel wouldn't do this. He loved Charles. He loved us. Did he? I asked quietly. Or did you just assume he did because you're blood related? See, Grandpa taught me something important. Family isn't about biology. It's about showing up. It's about integrity. It's about caring when it's inconvenient. I opened my briefcase and pulled out a stack of documents. For the past 7 years, while you all thought I was wasting my time playing business, I was building an empire with Grandpa. Every Sunday you thought we were just having lunch? We were reviewing acquisitions. Every evening you mocked me for visiting him? We were strategizing expansion into 3 new markets. I spread the documents across the table. These are the corporate filings for Brooks Enterprises International. Note the 2 shareholders, Samuel James Brooks, 80% and Sonia Rose Brooks, 20%. Dated 7 years ago. I pulled out another document. This is the transfer of shares agreement, signed 2 years ago when Grandpa's health started declining. He transferred his 80% to me in a living trust. It became official the moment he died. Trey grabbed one of the documents, scanning it frantically. This can't be legal. It's perfectly legal, Morrison confirmed. I've been Samuel's attorney for 35 years. I helped structure Brooks Enterprises from the beginning. Every document, every transfer, every corporate entity, all legal, all documented, all ironclad. But why? Dad's voice cracked. Why would he do this to his own family? I looked at my father, the man who'd raised me but never quite accepted me. Because I was the only one who ever asked him about his day and actually listened to the answer. You want to know why Grandpa chose me? I continued, my voice thick with emotion now. The armor was cracking, but not from weakness, from finally being able to speak my truth. Let me tell you about the first time I really met him. I was 8 years old. Do you remember that day, Mother? She said nothing, but her jaw tightened. It was the family barbecue. Charles had just scored the winning goal in his soccer game, and everyone was celebrating. I'd won the regional spelling bee that same day, the youngest contestant ever. I came to the barbecue so excited to share my news. The memory was crystal clear, sharp enough to cut. I walked up to you, Dad, while you were flipping burgers, and I said, Daddy, guess what? I won. Do you remember what you said? Dad's face had gone gray. Sonia, that was 20 years ago. Not now, I'm busy with Charles's celebration, I quoted. Those were your exact words. Then you told me to go get Charles a drink. I turned to the rest of them. I went to sit by the fence trying not to cry. And Grandpa came over. I'd barely spoken to him before. You all kept me kind of separate from him, remember? Said I shouldn't bother him with my childish things. He sat down next to me and asked what I'd won. When I told him about the spelling bee, he lit up. He said, that's my smart girl. Tell me every word they asked you. And I did. All 43 words. He listened to every single one, asked me about the roots and meanings. We sat there for 2 hours just talking. That's when he told me something I've never forgotten. Grandpa said, Sonia, I'm going to tell you something important. Intelligence is a gift, but wisdom is a choice. You have both. Don't let anyone make you feel small for being big. I could hear his voice in my head, gravelly and warm. From that day on, we were inseparable. While you all were planning Charles's future as the golden child, Grandpa was teaching me about compound interest. While you were buying Charles his 3rd car, Grandpa was teaching me how to read financial statements. While you were sending Charles to networking events, Grandpa was introducing me to the CEOs of Fortune 500 companies. This is all very touching, Aunt Linda said sarcastically, but it doesn't change the fact that we're family and you're. Say it, I challenged. Go ahead. Say what you've all been thinking my entire life. That I'm different. That I'm not really family because my skin is darker, my hair is kinkier, my features are broader. Say it out loud for once instead of just implying it at every holiday dinner. The silence was deafening. When I was 13, I continued, I asked Mother why we never talked about my adoption story. She said, some things are better left in the past. When I was 16, I overheard Dad telling Uncle James that he regretted the adoption because I didn't fit the family image. When I was 19, Charles told his friends at his birthday party that I was charity work, and that he wished you'd gotten a normal sister. Charles opened his mouth to protest, but I held up my hand. I heard you. I was bringing out the cake. You all just assumed I was too stupid or too meek to notice. Morrison cleared his throat. Perhaps I should clarify the complete financial picture. He pulled out another folder, thicker than the first. Brooks Properties LLC, which Charles now owns, holds title to 5 properties with a combined market value of approximately $35 million. However, as Ms. Brooks mentioned, these properties carry $7 million in secured debt. They also have deferred maintenance costs of approximately $2 million. The commercial building downtown has 3 tenants whose leases expire in 6 months, and all 3 have indicated they won't renew due to needed renovations. Charles had gone from pale to green. But the $10 million is real, I confirmed. It's yours. Minus estate taxes, which will be approximately $4 million. Minus the debt you'll need to service unless you want the properties foreclosed. Minus the operational costs. If you're smart and liquidate everything immediately, you might walk away with $5 million. If you try to hold on to the properties and manage them yourself. I shrugged. Well, you never did finish your business degree, did you? You were too busy partying. This is insane. Mother stood up, slamming her hands on the table. You manipulated an old man. You took advantage of him when he was vulnerable. Actually, Morrison interjected, I can attest that Samuel Brooks was of completely sound mind through his entire relationship with Sonia. I have documented proof of his mental capacity at every major decision point. In fact, he anticipated this accusation. He left video testimony. The room went silent again. Morrison pulled out a laptop and set it up. Within moments, Grandpa's face filled the screen. Younger than at his death, but still clearly him. The video was dated 3 years ago. If you're watching this, Grandpa's voice filled the room, then I'm gone and my family is probably losing their minds. Grandpa's image smiled from the screen and my eyes immediately filled with tears. I'd watched this video alone in Morrison's office a week ago, but seeing it again, especially with my family present, broke something open inside me. I'm making this video to be crystal clear about my intentions and state of mind. I'm 78 years old and Dr. Patterson just confirmed I'm sharp as ever. He's standing right here as a witness. The camera panned briefly to show Dr. Patterson, Grandpa's longtime physician, waving. I know my family, Grandpa continued, his expression growing serious. They're going to claim Sonia manipulated me. That she took advantage of an old man. So let me be abundantly clear. Sonia Brooks is the smartest, hardest-working, most ethical businessperson I've ever known. She's also the only member of my family who ever loved me for me, not for what I could give them. Charles tried to speak, but Dad grabbed his arm, shaking his head. Everyone stared at the screen. Charles, Grandpa said as if speaking directly to him, you're my grandson and I love you, but you're lazy. You've coasted your entire life on charm in my name. The properties I'm leaving you? They're a test. If you can turn them around, if you can work hard for once in your life, you'll earn more than money, you'll earn self-respect. I doubt you will, but I'm giving you the chance. Charles looked like he'd been slapped. To my daughter-in-law, Grandpa continued, and Mother stiffened, you turned my son against his adopted daughter because she didn't look like you wanted her to. You thought I didn't notice. I noticed everything. Mother's hands trembled as she reached for her purse. And Sonia, baby girl, if you're watching this, I hope you stood up there and told them the truth with your head held high. Grandpa's voice softened on the screen, and I had to grip the edge of the table to steady myself. Sonia, I need everyone to hear this part, so I'm saying it here instead of in a private letter. When you were 8 years old, you sat by a fence at a family barbecue, trying not to cry because nobody cared about your spelling bee victory. I saw you there, small and alone, and my heart broke. Not just for you, for what my family had become. He paused, and even on the video I could see the emotion in his eyes. I spent the next 20 years watching them diminish you. Every accomplishment ignored. Every achievement minimized. Every time you walked into a room, I saw you shrink a little, make yourself smaller, trying to fit into spaces that should have expanded to hold you. And I made a decision. I decided to give you something they could never take away. Knowledge, opportunity, and the empire we'd build together. The camera zoomed slightly closer to his face. The $5 I left you in the will? That's symbolic. It's every dollar your mother gave you for your birthday while Charles got hundreds. It's every cheap gift, every afterthought, every moment they tried to price your worth. And that note, you never deserved our name, you're right. You never deserved the name Brooks. You deserved something better, something you built yourself. Brooks Enterprises International doesn't carry my name for me. It carries it for you now. I couldn't stop the tears now. They rolled down my cheeks and I didn't bother wiping them away. To my family watching this, Grandpa's voice turned hard. You gave Sonia $5 bills her whole life. She turned them into $240 million. That's who she is. That's who she's always been. And you were too blind to see it. The video ended and the conference room remained silent except for my quiet crying. I hadn't planned to cry, had imagined myself stoic and triumphant in this moment. But grief is funny. It waits until you're safe to crash over you, and somehow, even surrounded by people who'd hurt me, I finally felt safe enough to break. Morrison closed the laptop gently. Sonia has full authority over Brooks Enterprises International and all its subsidiaries. Charles's properties are his to manage or liquidate as he sees fit, but he has no claim to the parent company. The will is ironclad. Are there any questions? This isn't over, Mother said, but her voice lacked conviction. We'll fight this. You'll lose, Morrison said simply. And it will cost you whatever Charles has left. I'd advise against it. I stood, gathering my things with shaking hands. I'm not going to say I forgive you because I don't. I'm not going to pretend this doesn't hurt because it does. Even now, after everything, part of me still wishes you'd loved me the way you loved Charles. My voice cracked. But Grandpa taught me that you can't make people see your worth if they're determined to keep their eyes closed. I walked toward the door, then paused. Charles, if you want help managing the properties, call me. I mean that. I'll help you because that's what Grandpa would have wanted. But this. I gestured to all of them. This family? I'm done trying to earn a place I was never going to get. Sonia, wait. Dad started, but I kept walking. Outside, the sun was setting, painting the sky in shades of orange and purple. I sat in my car for a long time, crying for the family I'd never really had, for the grandfather I'd lost, for the little girl at the fence who just wanted someone to be proud of her. My phone buzzed with a message from Morrison. Samuel would be so proud. You okay? I typed back through my tears, I will be. And somehow I knew it was true. I'd spent 28 years trying to be enough for people who would never see me. Now I'd spend the rest of my life being enough for myself. That was Grandpa's real gift. Not the money, not the company, but the understanding that my worth was never up for their vote. As I drove away from that office for the last time, I whispered to the universe, to Grandpa, to that 8-year-old girl. We did it. We survived them. And now we're free. The hurt would fade. The empire would grow. And someday maybe the little girl inside me would finally believe what Grandpa always knew. I was never the problem. They were. If this story resonated with you, please like and subscribe for more emotional journeys. Have you ever felt unseen by your own family? Share your story in the comments below. Remember, your worth isn't determined by those who refuse to see it. You are enough exactly as you are.